our estimation of the situation at the Fukushima Daiichi plant remains very serious, although there are early signs of recovery in some functions, such as electrical power and instrumentation. On 6th of April, it was reported that the leakage of water from the sidewall of the pit closest to the sea has stopped after coagulation agents, liquid glass, were injected into the holes drilled around the pits, and work continues to prevent further releases to the sea. According to the TEPCO press releases, as concerns the discharge of low-level contaminated water, TEPCO has estimated that these discharges would increase the effective dose to a member of the public by 0.6 millisievert if he or she were to eat seaweed and seafood from 1 kilometer from the discharge point every day for a year. And it should be noted, however, that the movements of all ships, including fishing boats, are restricted within a 30-kilometer zone from the nuclear power plant. Now, if I go to the units themselves, in Unit 1, as earlier said, well, fresh water is being continuously injected into the reactor pressure vessel through feed water line at the flow rate of 6 cubic meters per hour using a temporary electric pump with offside power. In Units 2 and 3, fresh water is being injected continuously also into the reactor pressure vessels through the fire extinguisher line at rates of 8 and 7 cubic meters per hour, respectively. And as of the 6th of April, TEPCO started injecting nitrogen gas to Unit 1 containment vessel to provide an inerted atmosphere to reduce the possibility of hydrogen combustion within the containment vessel. At the same time, on Unit 3, the indicated temperature at the feed water nozzle of the pressure vessel is 224 degrees, and at the bottom it is 170 degrees, which is still relatively high. In the instrumentation B for the reactor pressure indicates that the pressure in the reactor pressure vessel is increasing, while instrumentation A indicates that it has stabilized. And NISA has indicated that some instruments in the reactor vessel may not be working properly. Now, following the injection of nitrogen, the pressure, the dry well pressure, has increased slightly since this injection of nitrogen, which is good news because it shows that, one, the measurement sees something, so it seems to work, and then that injection seems to work also as the pressure has risen. In Unit 2, the indicated temperature at the feed water nozzle is stable at 143 degrees. We have no value for the bottom of the reactor pressure vessel. And the dry well pressure remains at 1 bar, 1 atmosphere, or atmospheric pressure. And the indicated temperature at the feed water nozzle of Unit 3 of the reactor pressure vessel is 88 degrees. At the bottom, it is 115 degrees. Additional water was injected via spent fuel cooling system line to the spent fuel pool by a temporary pump on April the 4th. And there has been no change in status on Units 4, 5, and 6, neither on the common spent fuel storage facility. Going to radiation monitoring, on 6th of April, low levels of deposition of both iodine-131 and cesium-137 were detected in 4 and 6 prefectures, respectively. The values reported for iodine-131 range from 3.4 to 10 becquerels per square meter, And for cesium-137, it ranged from 4.9 to 19 becquerels per square meter. And gamma dose rates continue to decrease. As of 5th of April, iodine-131 and cesium-134 and 137 was detectable in drinking water in a small number of prefectures. And all values, when they were detectable, were well below levels that would initiate recommendations for restrictions of drinking water. And as of the 6th of April, there is only one restriction for infants related to iodine-131, where the limit is 100 becquerels per liter, but it is in place as a precautionary measure in one village of the Fukushima prefecture. TEPCO, now going to seawater measurement and monitoring. TEPCO is responsible for near-shore sampling, taking samples of surface seawater, and precise locations will be shown on a map later. Samples near discharge area are collected daily, and until the 3rd of April, a general decreasing trend was observed. However, and understandably, after the discharge of contaminated water on 4th of April, there was a temporary increase from about 11 kilobecquerels per liter measured at 9 a.m. to 41 kilobecquerels per liter at 2 p.m. And this is for iodine-131. For cesium-134 and 137, the temporary increase was from 5.1 kilobecquerels per liter at 9 a.m. to 19 kilobecquerels per liter at 2 p.m. And on the 5th of April, a decrease was observed as compared to the previous day, with seawater concentrations of 5 becquerels per liter for cesium-137 and 11 kilobecquerels per liter for iodine-131. As concerns measurements offshore, further offshore, since the 4th of April, TEPCO added 3 new sampling points 15 kilometers offshore, in addition to the already established 3 sampling points at the same distance. This results in a total of 6 sampling points situated along a north-south transect at a distance of 15 kilometers from the coast. And levels of radionuclides reported at these locations for the 5th of April are in the range from 57 to 200 becquerels per liter for iodine-131, 18 to 310 becquerels per liter for cesium-134, and nearly the same range, namely 18 to 320 becquerels per liter for cesium-137. And we have no new data for the 30-kilometer offshore monitoring. On the 6th of April, the marine expert from the IAEA Environment Laboratories, Monaco, completed his mission in Japan. From the 2nd to the 4th of April, he was on board the research vessel Mirai to observe the sampling conducted 30 kilometers offshore. He visited the JAEA laboratory in Tokai, where the gamma spectrometric analyses are performed, and he briefed representatives of the Japanese government. Since our written briefing of yesterday, data related to food contamination were reported on 6th of April by the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. These reported analytical results covered a total of 78 samples taken from the 3rd of April through the 6th of April. And analytical results for 52 of these 78 samples for various vegetables, for strawberry, and for unprocessed raw milk in 8 prefectures indicated that iodine-131, cesium-134, and or cesium-137 were either not detected or were below the regulation values by the Japanese authorities. However, it was reported that analytical results for 26 of these samples, and 26 samples were taken from the Fukushima prefecture, and concerning various vegetables, spinach, leafy vegetables. So for these, it indicated that iodine-131 and or cesium-137 and cesium-134 exceeded the regulation values set by the Japanese authorities. On the 5th of April, the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare issued a press release indicating that a new provisional regulation value was set for iodine-131 at a limit of 2,000 becquerel per kilogram in fishery products. And as of 4th of April, there are food restrictions concerning either distribution and or consumption, which are in place in 4 prefectures: Fukushima, Ibaraki, Tochigi, and Gunma, and in specific locations in the Chiba prefecture, namely Katori City, Teiko Town, and Asahi City. So in Fukushima, there are restrictions on the consumption of leafy vegetables, headed and non-headed leafy vegetables. I'm said this is spinach, komatsuna, and cabbage, and also flower-headed brassicas like broccoli and cauliflower. There are also restrictions on the distribution of headed and non-headed leafy vegetables, flower-headed brassicas, spinach, kakina, and unprocessed raw milk produced in the prefecture. I discovered together with you some of these leafy and non-leafy vegetables. In Ibaraki, there are restrictions on the distribution of unprocessed raw milk, on parsley, spinach, and kakina produced in the prefecture. And in Chiba, there are restrictions on the distribution of spinach produced in Katori City and Teiko Town. And there are also restrictions on this distribution of spinach, chingensai, shungiku, sanshu, celery, and parsley produced in Asahi City. And in the last 2, Gunma and Tochigi, there are restrictions on the distribution of spinach and kakina produced in these prefectures. Now, if we come to the IAEA activities in Japan, the 2 agency experts in boiling water reactor technology who are in Japan, they are there to have direct exchange of views with the Japanese counterparts. They met with officials of NISA, of TEPCO, of the Japanese Atomic Energy Commission and the Nuclear Safety Commission. They visited the off-site emergency response center, the so-called J Village, and the Fukushima Daiichi site. And a 3rd agency expert will join the team in Tokyo to have follow-up meetings with TEPCO and NISA at the end of the week. And we have received also measuring data, monitoring data from about 15 or 20 member states who make available to us and through us to the other member states their own monitoring data.